SLT Mobitel, the connection. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, good news all around. The government confirms expectation of another batch of Oxford AstraZeneca vaccines on Thursday. Inoculations within the Colombo municipality, meanwhile, also begins.
We can see a very good response from the people. In fact, we struggle to meet the demand, and this is a very good sign because people have developed the faith.
No audience for politicians. The Cardinal digs his heels in over the Easter tax PCOI report handling. Last-minute drama. Chaminda Vas steps down from the consultant bowling coach role. SLC meanwhile accuses that the administration was held to ransom. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Monday, the 22nd of February, 2021.
ඇල්කොහොල් අඩංගු hand sanitizer භාවිත කරන්න. ලෙඩ රෝග ඇති කරන විෂ බීජවලට එරෙහිව සටන් කරන්න. හඳුන්වා දීමේ මිල රුපියල් 350යි.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Kanaka. Now, there was good news this evening with Acting Cabinet Minister of Health, Professor Channa Jayasumana, confirming that Sri Lanka will receive its next consignment of Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine from the Serum Institute in India on Thursday. Sri Lanka will receive 500,000 vaccine doses as part of the order placed by the State Pharmaceutical Corporation. In the meantime, immunisation of public against COVID-19 within the Colombo municipality, which was a virus hotspot for some time, commenced today across 7 vaccination centres. Chief Medical Officer of CMC, Dr. Ruan Vijayamuni, was upbeat about the public's participation in the inoculation programme, saying it is a good sign moving forward.
The daily number of novel coronavirus infections detected in Sri Lanka yesterday stood at 519. Infections were confirmed from all the districts except from Vaunia. From among them, Colombo is the only district to report COVID-19 cases in triple digits yesterday, with 122 infections. Meanwhile, 85 cases were reported from Kandy, while 64 confirmed from Gambha. Puttalam confirmed 51 infections yesterday, while Ratnapura and Kalutara reported 31 and 28 infections respectively. As for the rest, 137 infections were confirmed from 17 other districts. There was also a Sri Lankan expatriate among yesterday's infections.
පහුගිය දවස් 3-4 ඇතුළත රෝගීන් ගානේ යම් අඩුවක් අපිට බැලු බැලමට දක්නට ලැබෙනවා. ප්‍රමාණාත්මක PCR අඩුවීමත් එක්ක සංඛ්‍යාත්මකව අපිට හම් වෙන රෝගීන් ගාන අඩුවීම ඉතාම ස්වභාවිකයි. දැන් ඊයේ දවස්වල විතරක් අපිට කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙලා තියෙන PCR 12000ක් වගේ ප්‍රමාණයක් 12900ක් වගේ ප්‍රමාණයක්. ඒතර මේ 12900න් තමයි මේ හම් වෙච්ච රෝගීන් 500 නැත්නම් 600 වාර්තා වෙන්නේ. ඒතර අපිට මේ PCR ප්‍රමාණය 18000 19000 වැඩි වෙච්ච ඒ කාලවකවානුව තුළ අපිට රෝගීන් 900 800 900 තමහරට 1000 සීමාව දක්වා රෝගීන් වාර්තා වුණා. ඒතකොට රටක් විදිහට අපි දැනට කරන PCR ප්‍රමාණය සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපි නැවත සමාලෝචනය කළ යුතුයි.
In the meantime, the number of COVID-19 infections detected so far today stands at 490. Meanwhile, 10 more COVID-19 fatalities were reported from the island yesterday. 4 of the victims were from the Colombo district. The other victims were from the districts of Kalutara, Monaragala, Badulla, Kurunegala and Nuwara. In such a backdrop, the success of Sri Lanka's vaccination drives becomes essential. Health authorities have already iterated that the objective of immunization is in fact to prevent death and reduce the serious health conditions from developing as a result of infection. The island was donated 500,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine by India, and with that, health authorities had given the jab to 338,769 persons who came under priority groups by last evening. 35,912 people were administered with the vaccine yesterday alone. It is in this backdrop that Acting Minister of Health Professor Channa Jayasumana confirmed that another consignment of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine will be arriving in the island on Thursday night. He said that 500,000 doses of the vaccine will be sent by the Serum Institute in India as part of an order placed by the State Pharmaceutical Corporation. In the meantime, inoculation of the public residing within Colombo municipality too got underway today across 7 vaccination centres.
In order to get a full control, we need to immunize each and everyone above 18 years of age who are living within the city of Colombo. This is what we have started doing in mass scale from today onwards. So today itself, our aim is to immunize 7,000 people in one single day. And we have opened up 7 centers across the city. In North Colombo, the Cross Island. In Central Colombo, 2 places, Bandaranaike Mawatha Maternity Home and PD Sirisena Grounds, Maligavatta. And from Borella, 2 places, Campbell Park, and also in the public library in Colombo 7. And in Colombo East, the Torrington Flats, and also in Colombo West, MOH office at Vellavatta.
The Chief Medical Officer of the CMC was also impressed with the public turnout at vaccination centres, saying that it is a very good sign going forward.
We can see a very good response from the people. In fact, we struggle to meet the demand, and this is a very good sign because people have developed the faith for this vaccine. And I must say, we have already vaccinated up to today about 4,800 people, and only very mild symptoms only we could see. If you are over 30 years, please do come forward and we will register with your area MOH and we will be able to vaccinate as the doses come in to the public health department.
What's more, employees of the Colombo Municipal Council were also vaccinated against the novel coronavirus today at a vaccination centre located along the Forbes Road in Maradana. However, people who came for their vaccination were disgruntled as large queues meant that they had to wait for a considerable time in line for the jab. Some people questioned as to why a large number of people were called for one vaccination centre. As the country's borders are now open for all, employees at airports were also thrust into the front line. With that in mind, the employees at the Bandaranaike International Airport were also given the jab today by medical staff of the Sri Lanka Air Force. Meanwhile, Deputy Director General of Public Health Services, Dr. Hemantha Herat, requested public to remain patient in being inoculated without attempting to bypass the system.
The immunization program is carried out according to a pre-planned, prioritized activities. We have selected persons to be immunized in a manner so that the most benefit is coming not only to the persons but also to the public in general. So therefore, we have decided to cover the Western Province initially because it is the most vulnerable area and it can spread the disease to other parts of the country as well. This is carried out in selected areas in the Western Province, and I request the public to be patient and make sure that you wait until your turn and try not to influence and ask or request the health authorities to bypass this queue and then get yourselves immunized, because everybody will be getting this vaccine definitely, and everything depends on the availability of stocks because the stocks are very limited and production is limited compared to the demand, and as a result we are expecting the vaccines in limited stocks. So during that time we will be doing this vaccination to the best of our ability, making sure that the most needy people are vaccinated first.
As things stand, 75,110 people who infected with COVID-19 have recovered from the virus ever since the pandemic first hit the island in March last year, with 811 being given the all clear today. That leaves 4,934 active COVID-19 cases in Sri Lanka at present.
Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, has decided to not give private audiences to politicians until the report compiled by the Presidential Commission, which probed the Easter Sunday terror attacks, is made available to him. The decision comes at the heels of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa appointing another committee to make recommendations on the PCOI report, which the Cardinal was critical of. Meanwhile, the President's Media Division today issued clarification on the new committee, saying that some factions are attempting to distort its purpose. A cabinet subcommittee was appointed by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa last Friday to study the report compiled by the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, which probed the Easter Sunday terror attacks. The appointment of the committee, however, drew criticism from Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith. During a visit to the Katuapitiya Church recently, the Cardinal said that he does not recognise the committee and called the committee a needless appointment since a Presidential Commission of Inquiry comprising of judges had already made recommendations on the crime. He was also opposed to leaving the PCOI recommendations in the hands of politicians who, he said, are of inferior education levels to that of those who compiled the report. With that being the case, the President's Media Division today issued a communique offering a clarification on the appointment of the new committee. It says that the recommendations made in the Easter Attacks PCOI report cannot be successfully implemented by one entity, and that if the existing administrative sphere is inadequate for the said recommendations to be implemented, changes must be made to the administrative mechanism. The communique says that the responsibility given to the Cabinet Subcommittee appointed by the President is to study the contents of the PCOI report in depth and to report on how to go about preventing such tragedies from repeating and how to act in ensuring Sri Lanka's sustainable peace, security and stability. It goes on to say that legal proceedings against the accused in line with the recommendations made in the Easter Attacks PCOI report will be done as per accepted criteria, and the newly appointed committee is not expected to intervene in that process. What's more, the committee cannot add recommendations to the report of the PCOI. The PMD says that though that is the case, some factions are attempting to socialise a wrong impression about the purpose of the committee. In the meantime, it is reported that the newly appointed committee is set to convene today. On a different note, Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith, has decided not to have personal audiences with any politician until the final report of the Easter Attacks PCOI is made available to him. The media unit of the Archdiocese said that the meeting between the Cardinal and the Catholic members of Parliament, scheduled for the 2nd of March, too has been postponed. In the meantime, Catholic Bishops' Conference in Sri Lanka says that suspicions arise about the investigations conducted on the Easter Sunday terror attacks.
ජනාධිපති කොමිසම මහා විශාල වාර්තාවක් සකස් කරගත්තා. ජනාධිපතිතුමාට පිළිගන්නවා. දැන් පීලි පැනලා තියෙන තත්ත්වයක් තමයි අපි දකින්නේ. කොමිටු පත් කරලා දැන් කරගෙන යන ඒ වැඩපිළිවෙල ගැන අපිට ලොකු සැකයක් තිබෙනවා. මේ සැකය දුරු කිරීම සඳහා මේ වාර්තාව විශේෂයෙන්ම කාඩිනල්තුමන් අතට පත් කරන්නට ඕන.
පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරය ගැන විමර්ශනය කරන්න ඉතා විද්වත් ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨ විනිසුරුවරුන් වැනි උත්තමයන් ගෙන් සමන්විත කමිටුවක ඒ කාරණා ඉටු වෙද්දී බොහෝ අය ප්‍රශ්න කරනවා මේ තවත් කමිටුවක් පත් කරේ ඇයි කියන එක. ඒක විමර්ශනය කරන්න විද්වත් සුදුසු අය පත් වෙන්නට ඕනේ. එසේ පත් වී නැති බවයි අද බොහෝ දෙනෙක්ගේ මතය.
Sri Lanka's best health insurance with the fastest claim settlement. Soft Logic Life.
Pay just 500,000 rupees to reserve your unit today. Mulberry Residence.
Now, Sri Lanka's permanent representative to the United Nations, Dr. Mohan Piris, says that Sri Lanka and the United Nations Human Rights Council are stuck in a loop, where each time the two sides perform the same dance with no change in the end result. As such, he urged that the matter be looked through a humanitarian lens instead of the usual legal approach. Speaking at a webinar organised to provide observations with regard to the contents of the United Nations Human Rights High Commissioner's report on Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka's ambassador to China, Dr. Palitha Kohona, meanwhile, said that the UNHRC and its chief, Michelle Bachelet, have misunderstood their roles over the years. The 46th session of the UNHRC got underway in Geneva today, with Bachelet's report on Sri Lanka to be taken up on Wednesday.
Her mandated task is to work with member states to advance human rights, not to act as prosecutor and judge. It is difficult for a country to defend itself against unsubstantiated allegations and insinuations. No domestic legal system would permit that. The High Commissioner's office appears to have, over the years, misunderstood its role. The Council was never established by its founders to isolate countries, identify them singly, and chastise them individually. It was designed to help countries to improve their human rights performance. The Council's job is to assist and to encourage, not to punish. The High Commissioner has no authority to enforce the Council resolution. Now she turns to helpful countries to enforce principles which, in the view of many, have never been endorsed by the international community as a whole. The High Commissioner's report even suggests punitive measures in other fora, perhaps to bring Sri Lanka to heel or to make it an example. Again, it would seem that the report mistakes her role and plays into the hands of those wishing to punish Sri Lanka. This reeks of vengeance-seeking hatred.
I was amazed to read this report from the UNHRC. Most of it pretty vicious, full of allegations, recommendations, which in my judgment treat Sri Lanka as almost a vassal state of the United Nations. Criticism that nothing had been done on a number of issues in the last 12 months. Well, hasn't anybody in Geneva noticed that there is a pandemic? The Sri Lankan government done very well. Your population is about 22 million. About just over 400 people have sadly died. Our population in the UK, about 66 million. The latest count, no less than 120,000 or thereabouts have died. So who's done the better job at looking after their people? Some people called the Legatum Institute. In their report they published in late November of 2020, it says, over the past decade, Sri Lanka has made significant progress in addressing the constraints to its development. This progress has resulted from concerted efforts to build the institutional capacity and quality of the healthcare and education sectors, increasing access for its citizens to these key enablers of prosperity, especially in the rural areas. The results have been nothing short of remarkable. Sri Lanka is the most improved nation over the last 10 years. I just hope the UNHRC will recognise this achievement. However, sadly, I question they probably aren't even aware of it.
If you look at these reports from them to now, they are ad nauseam consistent with what it says. In as much as the Human Rights Commission has been so consistent and repeatedly saying the same thing, virtually churning out the same rhetoric every term, we in turn have been churning out a response which is equally consistent. And what happens? They say it, we respond to it, resolutions are passed, we fold our books in Geneva, go back home. We come back again and do the same thing, and we go through the motions so consistently. If the end result is that everybody feels that not enough is being done, then isn't there something missing that both sides are perhaps not giving their mind to? Think about it. So you will see that the Human Rights Commission keeps on pointing to us, and we keep on coming up with answers with very legal positions as to why it can be done or why it can't be done. The approach is full of jurisprudence, and I think it's too much of jurisprudence. Look beyond the law, because the law provides ready refuge to provide answers to any complicated problem. Should we now look at this problem differently? And that is perhaps through the lenses of humanity.
Now, this week's parliamentary sittings will start tomorrow and run for 3 days until the 25th, Thursday. As such, the debate pertaining to the regulation under the Gem and Jewellery Act taken up on the 10th and the adjourned to be taken up on the 23rd of February will continue from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Parliament will begin at 10 a.m. tomorrow and will continue with questions for oral answers by the MPs until 10:30 p.m. On Wednesday, the Parliament will be held from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., where the time will only be allocated for questions for oral answers by members of Parliament. And on Thursday, the vote of confidence of the former Speaker, late W.J.M. Lokubandara, will be presented in the House from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Now, Minister of Agriculture Mahindananda Alutgamage says that the government will not let 4 or 5 players control the paddy market, which has become a mafia. He also says that only 1 or 2% of paddy farmers will lose out on the fertiliser subsidy, contrary to what is being uttered by the opposition. Addressing a media briefing today, Minister Alutgamage gave an explanation on how the fertiliser subsidy will be worked off.
Due to the purchase of paddy from the farmers by the private sector at a price higher than the price certified by the government, Minister of Agriculture Mahindananda Alutgamage recently stated that farmers who aren't providing 1,000 kilograms of paddy to the government will lose their fertilizer subsidy. However, that announcement received a heavy criticism from some farmers. Further, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa yesterday said that the fertilizer subsidy is a gimmick of the government. With that being the case, the subject minister today assured that the fertilizer subsidy will not be eliminated.
රජය ප්‍රතිපත්තිමේ තීන්දුවක් ගත්තා ලංකා ඉතිහාසයේ පළවෙනි වතාවට රජයේ සතුව වී මෙට්‍රික් ටොන් ලක්ෂ 3ක් තියාගන්න. මේ සඳහා මිලියන 23000ක් ප්‍රතිපාදන වෙන් කරා. රජයේ විසින් ගොවියට පොහොර ටික දෙනවා, ජලය ටික නොමිල දෙනවා, රක්ෂණය නොමිල දෙනවා, තාක්ෂණය නොමිල දෙනවා. මේ සියල්ල රජයෙන් අරගෙන සහල් මුදලාලිට එකක් විතින් මේ සියල්ල තුට්ටු දෙකට ලබා ගන්නවා. මේ අවුරුද්දේ යල සහ මහ වී මෙට්‍රික් ටොන් මිලියන 5ක් අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා නිෂ්පාදනය කරන්න. මේකෙන් අපිට හාල් ලැබෙන ප්‍රමාණය මෙට්‍රික් ටොන් ලක්ෂ 30යි. අපේ අවශ්‍යතාවය මෙට්‍රික් ටොන් ලක්ෂ 25යි. අද වෙනකොට විපක්ෂය අපිට චෝදනා එල්ල කරනවා ගොවියාගේ පොහොර සහන ආධාරයට ගහන්නයි මේ උත්සාහ කරන්න කියලා. ඒ නිසා අපි කියන්න ඕනේ මේක සම්පූර්ණ අසත්‍යයක්. මේ රටේ වී ගොවියෝ ඉන්නේ 10,41,923යි. මේකෙන් අපි වී මිලදී ගන්නේ හෙක්ටයාර එකකට වැඩි ගොවීන්ගෙන් පමණයි. මේන් හෙක්ටයාර එකට වැඩි ඉන්න ගොවීන් සංඛ්‍යාව 2,66,921යි. ඒ කියන්නේ 127යි. 173කට පොහොර සහන ආධාරයේ ඒ ආකාරයෙන්ම ලැබෙනවා. අපි මේ 2,66,000න් කියන්නේ 127න් මේ ගොවියන්ගෙන් තමයි 10%ක් අපට ලබා දෙන්න කියන ඉල්ලීම අපි කරලා තියෙන්නේ. මේ වෙනකොට මේ රජය සහල් සංචිතයක් ලබා ගන්නවා කියනකොට මේ සහල් මාෆියාවට සම්බන්ධ වෙන අය බය වෙලා තියෙනවා. දැන් මේගොල්ලෝ අපි 50ක සහතික මිල කරපු ගමන් මේගොල්ලෝ දැන් ගිහලා 54ට මිලදී ගන්නවා. මේ කට්ටිය කරන්නේ 54ට ගොවියන්ගෙන් නිෂ්පාදනයෙන් 75ක් 80ක් මේ සහල් මාෆියා පුද්ගලයන් විසින් මිලදී ගන්නවා. මේගොල්ලෝ අරගෙන අන්තිම 105 නැත්නම් 10 රුපියල් 65කට 70කට ගන්නවා. ඒකල ආණ්ඩුවට බල කරනවා මේ 110ක වී ටික අරගෙන අපට නිෂ්පාදනය සඳහා විශාල මුදලක් යනවා. ඒ නිසා හාල් 125ට දෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා. එහෙම කරලා බිලියන ගාණක් වංචාවක් කරනවා. මේක තමයි මේ වී මෝල් හිමියන් අද සුදුන වගේ මාධ්‍යට අවිල්ල කතා කරනවා. රටේ සහල් හිඟයක් ඇති වෙනවා. වී මිල ඉහළ ගියොත් මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ? මේගොල්ලෝ 60කට මිලදී ගත්තොත් වෙන්නේ 111කට අපිට හාල් විකුණන්න වෙන්නේ. සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්තයා අද පොහොර සහන ආධාරය ගැන කතා කරනවා. එතුමට අමතක වෙලා 2014 2019 අවුරුදු කාලේ මේ රටේ පොහොර සහන ආධාරය 100%ක් කප්පාදු කරපු ආණ්ඩුවේ කැබිනට් ඇමතිවරයා. මේ මහා පරිමාණ සාල් මාෆියාව මේකට බහැලා තියෙනෙක් ගැන පුදුම වෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. මේ ලංකාවේ 4-5 දෙනෙක් ඉඳගෙන එක කන්නකින් බිලියන ගණන් හම්බ කරනවා. එහෙම කරන්න රජයකට දෙන්න බෑ. මේ රටේ පුතා සමස්ත ගොවියන්ගෙන් 73%කට ඒ විදිහටම පොහොර සහන ආධාරය ලැබෙනවා. ඉතුරු 127ත් මේ විදිහට කිලෝ 1000 දුන්නොත් ලැබෙනවා. දැනට වී කිලෝ ලක්ෂ 20ක් ලැබිලා. ඒ කියන්නේ ගොවියෝ දීලා. සමහර විට සමස්ත ගොවියන්ගෙන් 101කට හෝ 2කට මේ පොහොර සහන ආධාරය නොලැබේ. අනිත් එක අමතක කරන්න එපා. මේ දෙකටම ලෑස්ති නැත්නම් ගොවියා ආණ්ඩුවට සිද්ධ වෙනවා පාලන මිලෙන් ඉවත් වෙන්න. එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? වී කිලෝ 1 රුපියල් 25ට බයිනවා.
Opposition leader Sajith Premdas said that Samigi Janabalawege will stand up for the rights of their fellow parliamentarian Ranjan Ramanayaka, who is currently incarcerated. During his visit to Angunakola Palace Prison, Premdas said that the Court of Appeal has informed the Secretary of Parliament that Ranjan Ramanayaka will remain a parliamentarian until a final decision is given after his case is heard.
Opposition leader Sajith Premdas called at the Angunakola Palace Prison and looked into the well-being of MP Ranjan Ramanayaka.
රංජන් රාමනායක මැතිතුමා අදටත් මන්ත්‍රීවරයෙක් ඒ වගේම ඉදිරියටත් මන්ත්‍රීවරයෙක්. පැහැදිලි තීන්දුව මේ වන විට පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ මහලේකම්වරයාට අභියාචනාධිකරණය ලබා දීලා තිබෙනවා. නඩුව විභාග වෙලා අවසන් තීන්දුවක් එනතෙක්. කතානායකවරයාගේ යුතුයකම සහ වගකීම වන්නේ රංජන් රාමනායක මැතිතුමාව වහාම පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ගෙන්වීම. රංජන් රාමනායක මැතිතුමාගේ අයිතීන් වෙනුවෙන් අපි පෙනී සිටිනවා. මෙම ස්ථානයේ රංජන් රාමනායක මැතිතුමාව තියා ගැනීම එතුමාගේ ජීවිතයට තර්ජනයක්. රජය වග කියන්නට ඕන රංජන් රාමනායක මැතිතුමාගේ ජීවිතය.
We will see you once more on the other side of this break. Bear with us. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now taking a look at the Colombo Bourse, the all-share price index fell 200.43 points to close at 7,597.51, while the S&P SL 20 index of more liquid stocks fell 68.33 points to close at 3,029.79 during trading today. Market turnover was 3.4 billion rupees, where 29 stocks gained and 166 fell. Here's Dimantha Matthew with a brief report on today's market performance.
Today we saw a major plunge in the market as the index declined by around 200 points, with the market overall having a lot of selling pressure, mainly coming out of the diversified financial sector and also the banking sector. So with that, what we are experiencing is very slow selling pressure that is gradually increasing in the market compared to the last few days. Even today we saw the selling pressure coming in the transportation sector as well. So slowly we are seeing that the selling pressure is moving to other sectors as well. So overall, the S&P SL20 index also declined by 68 points. And in terms of turnover, we have seen a near 2-month low turnover level of 2.3 billion rupees.
Now taking a look at the currency market, the Sri Lankan rupee closed stronger at 193 rupees to 194 rupees and 25 cents to the US dollar today, compared to its last close of 195 rupees and 195 rupees and 75 cents on Friday. Now let's take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. Sri Lanka Cricket says that former Sri Lanka fast bowler Chaminda Vaas today announced his resignation from his post as consultant bowling coach of the national team just 3 days after he was appointed to the position. It accused Vaas of holding the administration to ransom for personal monetary gain.
Sri Lanka Cricket has stated that Chaminda Vaas has resigned from his post effective from the 26th of March 2021 and has also informed that he will not be available to tour the West Indies as a member of the support staff. The statement says that Vaas's resignation came before the team was scheduled to depart for the West Indies, which is scheduled for tonight. The former Sri Lanka fast bowler was only appointed as a fast bowling coach for the national squad last Friday for the upcoming West Indies tour. Issuing a statement on the abrupt resignation, the SLC said that it is particularly disheartening to note that in an economic climate such as the one facing the entire globe right now, Vaas has made the sudden and irresponsible move on the eve of the team's departure, based on personal monetary gain. It says that it is extremely disheartening that Vaas has resorted to holding the administration, the cricketers and the game at ransom by handing in his resignation at the 11th hour, citing the administration's refusal to accede to an unjustifiable demand for an increased USD remuneration in spite of being contracted employee of the Sri Lanka Cricket, already receiving remuneration that is keeping with his expenses, qualifications and expertise, in addition to which he would have been entitled to the usual USD per dimes offered to all members of a travelling squad.
Sri Lanka Cricket also confirmed today that fast bowler Lahira Kumara has tested positive for COVID-19. The infection had been identified following the PCR tests conducted on the national squad nominated to take part in the white ball segment of the tour of the West Indies. Kumara's positive COVID-19 infection had been confirmed yesterday. The SLC said that immediately upon identification, Lahira Kumara was directed to follow the government's health protocol laid out on the novel coronavirus. It added that the SLC will continue with normal operations adhering to the stipulated health protocols. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.